Hello, happy Friday and welcome to the Pastafarian Temple. Every week we'll be taking a look at a different big question. Where do we come from? What is the meaning of life? Where do we go when we die? This week's question, by comparison, is actually rather simple. Why are we here? Not in some big picture sense, but in a very real, why am I here? Why am I recording this video? What is the Pastafarian Temple and what is Pastafarianism? To answer this question, I need to do a quick history lesson. Way back in the ancient year of 2005, the Kansas School Board of Education was considering including intelligent design in their science curriculum. A college student by the name of Bobby Henderson wrote them an open letter, pretty much saying, it's great that you want to include mythology in your science lessons, but if you're going to teach one version of creationism, you need to teach all versions of creationism. Which just happens to include this one I just made up about a flying spaghetti monster. Now, this was obviously done to prove a point. It was a work of satire, a parody. But it didn't end there. A year later, Bobby Henderson published The Gospel of the Flying Spaghetti Monster, which expanded upon the beliefs of these fictional believers, which he called Pastafarians. These beliefs included things like pirates preventing global warming, or that every Friday is a holiday. But again, it didn't end here. The open letter and the gospel made national news, and people began to gather on chat rooms and in forums. These people, who called themselves Pastafarians, told jokes, made art, and told stories. In 2010, a small group of these Pastafarians gathered together some of these stories and published them as the loose canon. Considering it was made by a bunch of strangers on the internet, it's surprisingly well written. Woven into these stories about pirates, parties, Pastafarians included important morals and life lessons. They put their own views and beliefs into the stories. And that's where things really get interesting. You see, when this all started, it was fictional beliefs of a fictional group. But here, you start to see real beliefs of real people calling themselves Pastafarians. A little while later, in 2014, a prisoner in Nebraska claiming to be a Pastafarian sued the prison system, claiming that they did not allow him accommodation for his religious beliefs. Admittedly, he was rather vague about what those beliefs were, and he sued for a very large sum of money. When the case eventually went before a judge, it was found that Pastafarianism, as presented, was not a real religion. The judge's findings in Kavanaugh v. Bartlett are definitely worth the read. Despite not being given much to go on, District Judge Garrard took his time to examine all sides of the issue. He points out that the religion presented in the Gospel of the Flying Spaghetti Monster is obviously a work of satire. But he doesn't stop there. He speculates that just because this may be a work of fiction does not mean that real beliefs, a real religion, could not be born from its teachings. As for my own part in Pastafarian history, in 2018 I submitted paperwork through the United States Army to grow a pirate-like beard as a way to observe my Pastafarian beliefs. The paperwork went up, it came back down, denied. After submitting more paperwork to find out why it was denied, it became apparent that when I said Pastafarian, Army leadership read Pastafarian. This is the reason for the Pastafarian Temple. My goal, my hope for this project, this temple, is to create an easy way to distinguish the real religion, the real beliefs of real people, from the satirical and fictional religion that served as its springboard. So that's the when, what, and why for the Pastafarian Temple. But what is Pastafarianism? Pastafarianism is a religion based on the rejection of dogma and embracing the absurd. One more time for those of you taking notes. Pastafarianism is a religion based on the rejection of dogma and embracing the absurd. Let's take a closer look at that first part. If we say that Pastafarianism is a religion, we have to ask, what is a religion? The dictionary defines religion as a set of beliefs concerning the cause, nature, purpose of the universe, especially when considered as the creation of a superhuman agency or agencies, usually involving devotional and ritual observances, and often containing moral code governing the conduct of human affairs. In short, religion is what we use to answer the big questions, such as where do we come from, why are we here, what is right and wrong, and where do we go when we die? The Pastafarian answers to these questions, by the way, are somewhere, because it's complicated and we'll find out soon enough. I'll obviously be going more in depth with these questions in later sermons. And luckily for us, we are not in this alone. Great minds have come before us. We'll be taking a look at what various religious writers, philosophers, and great thinkers have come up with, and then ask more questions based on what we find. Which segues pretty well into the first tenet of Pastafarianism. Pastafarianism is a religion based on the rejection of dogma. So again, we have to ask, what is dogma? Dogma is a principle or set of principles laid down by an authority figure as incontrovertibly true. Pastafarians do not believe in any grand authority figure. No god or gods have carved anything into stone. Because of this, nothing is incontrovertibly true. In other words, nothing is above question. In fact, not only is nothing above question, but Pastafarianism teaches us that everything should be actively questioned. Now, this does naturally put us at odds with religions that are based on dogma. Most religions are sadly centered around blindly accepting what is written in a book, or what a man in a pointy hat says. Faith, after all, means belief in the absence of, or even in despite of, evidence. That being said, I believe it is very important to point out that, while we hate the belief, we do not hate the believer. Now, that got a bit serious, so it's perfect time to move on to the second principle of Pastafarianism that I mentioned at the beginning. Pastafarianism is a religion based on the rejection of dogma and embracing the absurd. So, one last time, we have to ask, what is the absurd? It actually has two meanings, depending on who you ask. In philosophy, the absurd, with a capital A, is what happens when humans try to apply order and meaning to an inherently chaotic and meaningless world, where the absurd, with lowercase a, means arousing amusement or derision, something that makes people laugh. There are other religious organizations that focus on human logic and rejecting dogmatic ideas. The American Humanist Association and the Satanic Temple are two of the more predominant ones you may have heard of. So, what makes Pastafarians different? On their FAQ page, the Satanic Temple is asked what separates them from humanism. The answer is that the unifying attribute of all Satanists is their embrace of their outsider status. If their pariah status sets aside the Satanists, then it is our sense of humor that sets aside the Pastafarians. We have come to realize that the only way to stay sane in this crazy world is to laugh along with it. As the great British thinkers have so poignantly sang, life's a laugh, and death's a joke. It's true. You'll see it's all a show. Keep 'em laughing as you go. Just remember that the last laugh is on you. So that's about it for now. Thank you for watching. Are there any big questions you would like us to take a look at? Please drop them in the comments below. Again, happy Friday, and may you be touched by his noodly appendage. Ramen.